I love Witch Hat Atelier. I still remember going to the comic shop one day to see whether there was a new volume of Land of the Lustrous and walking past the W's, where Witch Hat's first volume was turned cover out like they do with the real big shot attractions. It stopped me mid-step. Look at how gorgeous this is, the detail and motion of the fabric, this incredible hatchwork shading. As someone learning to draw so that I can finally make my dream of an Elish Norn body pillow a reality, I immediately wanted to buy it just as a fabric reference. Then I opened it up and started reading, and it was so much more. The story, the world, the characters, it sucks you in as a whimsical kid adventure, and then starts hitting you with the existential questions, a battle not between good and evil, but between freedom and safety, where freedom are the bad guys, and never just the bad guys. All that and more is why Witch Hat Atelier will forever have a place of prominence on my favorites list, right next to Hoseki no Kuni and probably Chainsaw Man and... A what adaptation?
I need my hands free!
There is a lot to talk about here. They've done a fantastic job animating an art style that must be a nightmare to put in motion. They tapped Eve for the opening song, and given that I think of him as the urban fantasy guy, I can't believe how well it works. 10 out of 10, it's the best opening I've seen in a long time. I spent an hour just listening to it on repeat while exercising, daydreaming about my own D&D magic school narratives. The music generally is a high point, something I noticed during the best episode of the year. Holy shit, the Dragon Maze episode is a masterpiece. And getting to see some of my favorite characters finally brought to life has been... You know, a lot of my videos start like this, with me sitting back on my couch after finishing something and just feeling that something is off. There are some obvious things I could point to. Tetcha's voice sounds like this.
Thank you! I always love it so when people tell me thank you. So thank you for your thanks!
Oh, I see. Well, thank you. Again.
Thank you!
Which is a choice. Not necessarily a wrong one, just one that gets old very fast. For Rich's English voiceover, they seem to have done a quiet voice, so far so good, but instead of just cranking up the gain so we can hear, they maybe put the microphone right up close against her mouth and then cranked the gain? Honestly, I'm not 100% sure what they're doing wrong here, but it sounds like this, and it takes me right out of any scene she's in.
There it is.
Sure enough, that's a casting seal.
Does that dragon look like it's gotten bigger?
Either that or we're all getting smaller, and so's the space. How are you able to get here, Master?
So just watch the sub, right? That's what you should be doing 90% of the time anyway, except in this case, Witch Hat's dub problems aren't just the usual laziness. He's too strong! I'm gonna have to use my ultimate move! It's because they're swinging for the fences every time. So dropping the dub also drops some of the best vocal performances in regional dialects any dub has had in years.
Hold still! I don't want to drop you! Stop it! That spell is evil! You mustn't... No!
This is what my life has been, drawing casting seals till my fingers turned black, working and working to pass the tests, so that one day I could become an apprentice. You don't know the first thing about it.
I can't have you catching a cold, can I? I am the watchful eye.
Then you want your help?
It's my own fault for leaving my door open.
seriously, if other dubs put this level of effort in, by which I mean actually attempting to act, I would be recommending dubs all the time. But in order to get that here, you also need to put up with Rich's wacky microphone and, The dragon episode is a masterpiece, but right after there's a noticeable dip in quality, which is...
Boy, hell no, boy. That boy's stuck in time.
But I don't think the real source of my discomfort is anything so obviously technical. I first really noticed it after the scene where Coco stumbles through accidentally bullying Custis into admitting he's colorblind.
It's the bright red one. You see it, right? Let's start with these. What are they? Just tell me which color goes with which.
I have no idea!
What? But earlier, you...
I remember them by their position on the shelf. I can't tell the colors apart! Please, just get out of here.
It's a pretty typical delivery for an anime, which isn't, like, terrible, but that wasn't what I remembered from the comic. I realized that despite the beats being the same, the scene had a totally different tone in my head, taking place faster, with Custis being more matter-of-fact about his disability, and just trying to move the conversation away from it. Now, some of you might at this point be pointing at the screen and saying, seriously, this is your issue? Stop whining about people doing stuff for you. Of course it's not going to be exactly like you imagined, just be glad your favorite comic is getting an anime. Well, that's fair, and clearly a ton of love and effort has been put into bringing this world to life. I do think we can learn something about the nuances of adaptation and medium by taking a closer look at this. I also don't think it's quite as harmless as company making the work you love more accessible, because for a lot of people, the anime is Hat Atelier, and they'll never experience anything that's lost in translation. But let's stick to the learning mindset. I want to try and figure out exactly which shots and decisions lead to these tonal differences, since I know everyone loves going into extremely granular shot-by-shot detail about transmedium adaptation, and surely this will stop the algorithm from taking this video out behind the shed, right guys?
The algorithm kind of emerges in the mind of YouTubers as this kind of deity.
Maybe the biggest example is Tassel Hat here. No, I'm not calling him Eyeball, that's dumb, and also the Cat in the Hat here has a much more prominent eyeball on his own hat. Tassel is kind of the cool uncle of the witchery world. While we applaud Quiffery for making Coco a witch, it was really Tassel Hat who first granted her fondest wish, completely free-ish of charge or conspiracy to track down political dissidents. He simply believes that magic should be free and wants Coco, and by extension everyone else, to have that. The most aggressive thing he does to Coco is empowering her own magic and offering an alternative viewpoint on magical regulations, and also locking her in a basement with an apex predator.
Seatbelts, everyone! Please let this be a normal field trip. With a prince? No way!
But even his fun dragon surprise comes off as less menacing in the manga, because, come on, look at this panel of the dragon going "Grrrk," and doing the head tilt at a distraction cloak, and tell me the tone's not a little silly. Sure, it's a tense scene with a big-ass animal chasing the girls, but come on, this is not a creature of murderous intent. Yes, Quiffery's spell sequence is cool as hell, and adds a lot of really neat points that aren't found in the single manga panel, like the clouds disappearing, and I've watched it 10 times, it's so fucking cool, but all of this action Sakuga overshadows the much more thematically significant solution prior, with the girls working together to fulfill the dragon's needs, and oh god, it's still so fucking cool. I love how much effort they've put into the act of drawing magic itself. Look at this!
Well, that sounds rather...
None can withstand the lure of a warm bed. Not even dragons, probably.
Well said! Remember? We were running away from it, and then it slammed into a pillar. Really hard, nose first. At the time, all I could think about was how afraid I was. But it must have hurt so much. Now I feel bad for the poor dragon.
Well... let's try it then.
Watch out! 3, 2, 1! Next station!
If we can properly synchronize the positioning and timing to combine 5 into 1, Even if it sinks with the beast's weight, the sand cloud will keep returning to its original shape and maintain the same downy quality. It's called...
The Dragon Disabler today!
Actually, it's the serpent's bed of sand.
But it's not the crown of the episode, or the note that it ends on, leading to a much more action-y overall tone, especially since the anime also has renowned Elden Ring composer Yuka Kitamura putting on her music in the background to hike up tension. Look, in the manga, Qufry catches Agate, and then the dragon makes a run at biting him, and he just dumps a bunch of water on it. It doesn't even really seem to get near him, but in the anime, the dragon is about half a second from biting Agate in half when Qufry snatches her out of its jaws and then has to weave through all of its spines. These are meaningfully different framings, and they can make the difference between a fun and educational school outing and oh my god, that dragon was literally about to murder a child. And let's be real, if Agate had gotten eaten to death, Hat totally would have fixed her right up to teach them an important lesson about healing magic, which, even setting aside, did nothing wrong to fences. We as the audience are predisposed on a structural level to like Tassels, because he's the main agent of change in the setting, and we want to see cool magic, and only his rules let him show us the coolest magic of all. Sure, Qufry's got the river sword and the water sculpture, but at least in the manga, Tassel is the only one out here doing domain expansion Dragon Realm Labyrinth. This is one of Witch Hat Atelier's best tricks, subtly placing the audience directly into the same dilemmas characters are struggling with in the story. We love magic, and we want to see more of it, and so does Coco. You think Coco doesn't want to learn Dragon Realm Labyrinth? But we know it's not so simple. We've seen where that path leads, except surely there's some way to have both cool magic and good things, right? And there's so much it's needed for. The world is choked with injustice, people born with disabilities, people who are hurting right now and could be saved with the tools right in front of us. Are you really going to let this guy die because you're afraid of some potential future based on a past nobody was even alive to remember? Don't you want to believe in a better world? And this is so effective in the manga. Witch Hat Atelier's art is in many aspects unparalleled, but if I had to gun to my head point to the core strength that gives Witch Hat such staying power, it has to be its ability to make you feel the pull from both sides of a problem. This isn't some Star Wars dark side where people join it because shut up we need someone cool to fight.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
In Witch Hat, you feel the reasons why this rule exists and why people will always want to break it. Now, this effect might be mitigated somewhat if we have a scene where the face of one side of it is menacing the main character from the shadows and going, "And now my evil scheme shall end the world." If he talks in the crazy guy voice that every anime uses for someone who's totally lost their marbles.
Magic is a falsehood that makes this world vibrant. These hands draw the most beautiful of spells. I'll teach you all sorts of things Keyfree never could. I wonder how long this ruse can be maintained. And when the time comes, what a day it shall be!
Jesus Christ.
It's the same problem I had with Custis. When I read this, he sounded so reasonable in my head, but when you put this on film, you have to pick a voice actor, and that voice actor and their director have to make a decision. And sometimes that decision is going to be this.
Behold what your avarice for magic has wrought. You are to blame, as you will be when the world falls apart!
Did you not hear how evil his voice is?
This isn't just a question of his voice, it's a question of the medium itself. In the comic's nightmare sequence, this line doesn't even have a speech bubble to Tassel. I guess you can assume it's his voice because it was the second person and he was the last person to speak, but I'll tell you, when I read through it, I sure didn't. I read it as Coco's own voice, or the general voice of societal accusation. Definitely not as, "And when I destroy the world, it will all be your fault." When you adapt this comic into anime, it is in color, which means you have to decide whether this panel of Tassels holding a broken ink bottle has his hands dripping with ink or literally stained with blood. Anyone want to guess which one Bug Films went with?
After all that trouble to give it to her.
This is one page in the manga. You read it in a couple of seconds, but in the anime, it's an entire scene in which he seems to be, edging himself?
I wonder how long this ruse can be maintained.
Is he contemplative, thinking about magic and its role, or is he like this?
These hands draw the most beautiful of spells. only to be so hideously stained with ink.
I really do think Tassels comes off as way less unsympathetic in the comic. When Eustace gets transformed, he's there to help them out, and when they say no, he's totally fine with it. He bids them good day and says he'll be around if they ever change their minds. Even seemingly small changes to framing and delivery can collectively make a big difference in the overall tone. In the manga, Tassels seems to be told by Cat that the latter is going to take action, and Tassels apparently decides to tag along. In the anime, there's definitely no question mark here. It's a statement from Tassels that reads more as an order.
It seems further action is called for. I see. So then you, the embodiment of forbidden magic, will take that action.
So, is Tassels a Machiavellian schemer lying to Coco, or did he hear that the brimmed cap's equivalent of that guy was going to mess with her and came to make sure it didn't get out of hand? The Cat in the Hat wants to keep fighting because he's an actual psycho, but Tassel Hat forces him to break it off. He's the cool magic uncle, or he can be read that way in the manga. We actually don't even get to see that scene in the anime because of the frankly baffling pacing decisions of the finale. I wrote most of the script before watching the last episode, and paging through my volumes of the comic for bits I wanted to talk about and use as graphics, I found myself asking how the hell they were going to finish this arc in one episode, and as it turns out, they aren't. We stop awkwardly in the middle of the arc, at a point that's technically the same cliffhanger that ends a book volume, but is a pretty abrupt and anticlimactic one, especially when there are much better ones just a scene or two away. It's made even weirder by how the episode seems to be playing for time earlier. Comic readers will make it through Cat in the Hat spiel in like 30 seconds, but in the anime it just goes on and on and on to the point where the non-weeb I was watching this episode with was just kind of scratching her head and wondering why they were stalling. Yeah, dude, I know. Sans cap, dirty sinners, brim something, take over the world, show them all, blah blah blah. Can we get to the genuine moral quandary already? Except even that wouldn't be the same, because the generic evil crazy voice they gave Tassels is going to spoil the whole good cop bad cop routine. They try to hype this up to season finisher standards by pumping a bunch of frames into a handful of shots, but it can't pick up this much pacing slack. Also, maybe it's just me, but did the manga seem so rapey here? On paper, this is 1.5 panels. We don't even see him or the ground for the first one. Yet in the anime, he's pinning her wrists as she struggles and her feet scrabble uselessly against the ground, and he talks about how he's going to make her into an adult. I guess it's thematically appropriate here since he's threatening her bodily autonomy, but a weird ogling of sexual assault-coded shots, pacing issues, characters getting flattened into good guys and bad guys in a way that undermines the core themes of the show. This is the exact same shit Bug Films was pulling in their last show. And hold on, they also did summertime rendering? Oh, holy shit, someone has to stop these guys. I love the Hat Atelier manga, but the show, I just like the show. And when I compare the two, it makes me sad that a lot of people are only ever going to experience what to me is the stripped down kiddie version. A version where you can tell something evil is happening because the music changes and Quifrey's eye disappears. A version where instead of a cop pointing his gun at a kid, which is already a crazy thing to do, we hold on a long shot of his finger squeezing the trigger. A version where instead of wondering what happened between Nolna and Quifrey, the story is tripping over itself to go, guys, did you notice that Quifrey is sinister? Something evil is going on with Quifrey. You didn't miss that, right guys? I've gotten a little sidetracked from my original point. Adaptation is not a pure benefit proposition. I'm sure there are people out there that like the more dramatic retelling here, but comic books, and also probably prose to a lesser extent, have a real strength in that they hand control of pacing and line delivery over to the reader, allowing the same scene to be individually tailored to meet disparate viewers who could never all be catered to at once by anything so concrete as a single audio-video track. Maybe this is why it's so common to hear the refrain of "the manga was better." My point here isn't that this one production made some decisions I don't like. It's that no anime production is ever going to be able to match an individualized delivery from inside each audience member's own head, which is, I think, a pretty interesting thing to think about. But I do hate to end on a negative note, so I do also want to point out that you can find examples of little adaptation quirks being leveraged to add depth to the narrative in a way that would be impossible or at the least very difficult to do in comics. The first time I really saw someone do this was my beloved Premature Death Hidden Inventory arc, where, spoilers by the way, if you haven't seen it, just go watch it now. It's only 6 episodes, the video is basically over, and it's the apotheosis of Shonen Perfected. Anyway, toward the end of the Premature Death arc, there is a fake-out ending where the ED music kicks in so that you think the episode is over and everyone got a happy ending, right before a bullet rips through both that music and Amanai's head.
私は生まれた時から特別で、みんなとは違うって言われ続けて、私にとっては特別が普通で。
帰ろう、リコちゃん。
I don't know how you do this kind of contextual subversion in a comic book. You'd have to have like a fake out first page of the next Shonen Jump title before abruptly cutting back to reveal the last one's not over yet. Really good comics can do something adjacent, where they hide the resolution of a tense moment behind a page turn, like this one in Witch Hat. You'll note that in the comic you can still see Qufri's eyes, he just looks serious, while in the anime they shift him over to evil Qufri and start playing the music.
Quite an observant young man. You must look at things very carefully.
I have something to ask you.
Okay, I won't start again. Anyway, if you have any other examples of people doing neat stuff with adaptation tricks like hidden inventory, do leave a comment. I'm genuinely interested to hear what elf... What elf? I'm genuinely interested to hear what else people have tried.
Let's go, in and out.
10
minutes adventure.